Welcome to Building Connections, presented by IPEX. Each week, we delve into the world of construction, exploring how key leaders in the space shape the infrastructures of tomorrow. Discover the stories behind the solutions that impact municipal, commercial, and residential projects across North America.
Welcome to Building Connections, the podcast where we explore the materials and people shaping the future of infrastructure. I'm your host, Greg Blackett. Today, I'm joined by Ned Monroe, who's the president and CEO of the Vinyl Institute. The Vinyl Institute is the voice of the vinyl industry in the United States. So from clean water systems to durable building materials, vinyl plays a major role in modern infrastructure, but it's often misunderstood. So in this episode, we're going to explain how the Vinyl Institute supports its members, challenges outdated perception, and leads the charge on sustainability, innovation, and public engagement. Welcome, Ned.
Thank you very much for having me, Greg. I appreciate participating today.
So Ned, maybe just walk us through a bit of your journey, how you got to the Vinyl Institute, and what drew you into the vinyl industries in the first place.
Well, like a lot of people in the industry, mine's been a pretty crazy path. I graduated from college and worked in political campaigns in the U.S. for about 13 years, 15 years. State, local, federal. I worked on the 1988 presidential campaign, Bush versus Dukakis, which is obviously dating me. But after about 13, 15 years of being unemployed after every single election. So every November I was out of a job, needed to find something a little more stable. I turned to trade associations, and I've been working in trade associations now for about 30 years. The Vinyl Institute is my fifth trade association. And just for background, in case the listeners don't know, the Vinyl Institute is a U.S.-based trade association. And we represent the manufacturers, primarily the manufacturers of PVC resin. So chemical manufacturers that make PVC, polyvinyl chloride, which is a powder. And we then take that powder and we sell it to folks who turn it into pipes and PVC pipes and vinyl siding and vinyl roofing, vinyl flooring, blood bags. Almost all blood bags are made out of vinyl and including vinyl record albums. I love talking about pipes, but obviously a lot of people would rather talk about vinyl record albums. And we represent a lot of the industry, the guys who produce the chemicals, and we work downstream with the folks who also represent the compounders and the converters.
That's great. And so what would you say that sort of the role of the Institute is? So, you mentioned the applications, the building material PVC. What's sort of the central mission or role of the Vinyl Institute?
So it's a couple things. So the first thing is our jobs. We represent the manufacturers of PVC, polyvinyl chlorides. We represent those folks. But in the big picture, what we're trying to do is to look to the future and try to anticipate what are the threats or what are the opportunities to grow the PVC market. Our second big mission that we have is to convene the industry to come to strategic solutions on how we can take advantage, either the opportunities or address the threats. And then we try to provide a return on investment. So when people are paying dues, obviously we want to provide them value. The value proposition for our folks, a lot of time it's regulatory assistance. So working with the United States Environmental Protection Agency, working with state legislatures, so all the advocacy kind of things. We do a ton of work on regulatory compliance. We do studies. For example, we've done some studies on meat wrap. So the meat wrap in the grocery stores, a lot of that is PVC vinyl wrap. And so we've done some studies, for example, of what's a better meat wrap? Is it vinyl or is it butcher paper?
Yeah.
Does butcher paper really protect the life of your meats? No, we don't think so.
Right.
But I will tell you, when people say, "Hey, Ned, really, what do you do?" Come on, that's a lot of stuff. What do you do? And I say, "Well, I sell more pipes."
Yeah.
50%, almost 50% of all PVC goes into PVC pipes. So we have a lot of markets, but vinyl record albums are a fraction of percent, and PVC pipes are about 50%. So when they said, "What do you do, Ned?" I said, "I work to make sure we can sell these high quality PVC pipes."
Well, that makes sense. And you mentioned sort of the comparison between vinyl and butcher wrap. It's a kind of started thinking about, your journey at the Vinyl Institute, and there's a lot of opinions out there about vinyl. So maybe kind of highlight what you think some of the biggest myths or misconceptions when it comes to vinyl, and maybe how that's changed over the last 5 years. Maybe where you see it's going.
Yeah, that's the core
Yeah.
question, Greg. I mean, it's really important. I know the folks that are listening to this are probably a little bit more focused on vinyl than PVC. That's probably the audience. I hope that's dialing in. I wish it was everybody, millions of listeners. The Rogan show should be competing with you guys. But let me approach it from this way. So, I have the vinyl record album behind us, and that's actually, we celebrated our 40th anniversary, and that was the giveaway that we gave everybody to celebrate our association's anniversary. But vinyl record albums are having a huge rebound right now. And you think about it, that is the epitome of what PVC is. Record albums that are 40 or 50 years old are as valuable as ever. They have the same crisp, warm quality of sound on a tiny little microscopic groove. In a record album, you get an hour play, 45-minute play on each side of the album. It lasts decades. It's durable. It retains its value. It's a quality product. That's the epitome of how great vinyl is. And then you think about all the products that we're in: luxury vinyl flooring, vinyl siding, vinyl roofing, blood bags, medical devices, meat wraps. And it's amazing what we're engaged in. So it's a couple ways. I used to work at the National Association of Manufacturers, and we had a tagline that today's manufacturing is not your father's manufacturing. Today's manufacturing is not dirty, dark, dingy, dangerous. And vinyl is the same way. It's not the same process or products that we produced in the 70s. And the analogy sometimes I'd like to think about, and we talk about a little bit in the industry, is the roadmap or the evolution of the forestry and the paper industry. So I remember that when there was a long time when people were really up in arms about the forestry industry. They were cutting old growth trees, and it was not strip mining, but the lumber equivalent to just clear cutting.
Yeah.
And today, paper is recognized as a sustainable choice. It's renewable. It's responsibly produced, responsibly managed. There's recycling programs in place. And I think that's where we're getting in the vinyl industry, that we recognized that we had the problems in the 70s with our manufacturing processes, and we fixed those. We worked with government, and we fixed those. Our manufacturing processes and our products are the solution. Our processes are cleaner and better, and we're doing lower energy use, less water in our manufacturing, and our products, as your sponsor IPEX knows, we're quality products that are actually saving energy, more efficient to move water. They last for 100 years. Pipes could last 100 years. Quality, long-lasting, sustainable solutions to very unique needs. And so it's that evolution that I think the forest folks went through, that I think we might be on the cusp of getting to. But it's a lot of repetitive conversation, but also a lot of in-depth conversations. Exactly what you're having on your show. You have had some outstanding guests that really are talking about this transformative narrative we know in the industry, but perhaps the public and decision makers, elected officials, need to get a little bit more familiar with. Or I don't know, even our sales forces. Sometimes I get questions from the sales force, and I respect them. I understand we're on the front line, but it's that we're not who we were in the 70s, I guess, is probably the quickest way to do it. And I'm really proud. I didn't know a lot about PVC and the vinyl team. And I got to tell you, it is a remarkable industry, a remarkable group of leaders that really are committed to doing the right things. And It's what's not to love a product that makes pipes and blood bags and record albums. It's
Yeah.
a heck of an industry.
And, that's something I mentioned before, where I think the industry is built on fantastic people, engineers, material scientists, building durable, life-saving critical infrastructure projects and products for a range of applications. And all of a sudden, this sort of noise comes along, and people are starting to ask questions: Are plastics good? Are they bad? And sort of, we weren't prepared, or the industry wasn't prepared to maybe address some of the questions people have. And so that's sort of the challenge now, is we need to reframe the story. And the great news is it's science-based. Like you mentioned, the guests that we've had on can speak, whether it's a life cycle analysis that shows the role plastic plays is actually superior in many ways. So I think that's, what we need to start doing, is just, spreading the science a bit more,
Right.
which is where the rubber road.
The industry is completely committed to continuous improvement and safety. And we recognize when there is a request, whether it's from a customer for a different ingredient, or a government or a regulatory agency for an improvement in process, lower emissions, whatever. We recognize that this is a journey, and that we want to continue to address these issues to make sure we do have a great product that's manufactured safely, that our ingredients that we use are, less risk and more safe, less harm, all of those kind of things. Our membership is loaded with scientists, and I don't know that we have many marketers. Obviously, we have marketers, but it is chemists and engineers and folks that are dedicated to the science, and their number one thing is continuous improvement on everything they do. And so maybe, I don't know, Greg, maybe part of the reason that we're a little bit defensive at times is because we're engineers and we want to get the science right. And we're not as inflammatory or aggressive, because we want to work in a partnership with regulatory bodies, work in a partnership with the governments and decision makers to make sure that we're understanding their concern and trying to figure out the solution. We talk all the time about regrettable substitutions, and as scientists, nobody wants to go backwards. And so it's a really great conversation we're having, and I think we're on the right track. I think we're moving in the right direction, and I know for a fact our companies look. I just put it this way: everybody wants clean air, everybody wants clean water, everybody wants a clean and safe food supply. And our guys are committed to working to make sure that our workers, our neighbors, our customers are doing the right thing, are safe and protected, and we're doing the right things to make sure that our customers and workers and neighbors all are getting a quality product in a safely manufactured way.
And what are your thoughts on sort of the Washington, D.C., the EPA, and more government bodies? Are they, what's the viewpoint on the Hill, call it, or how is that changing, and where does PVC sit in the eyes of the EPA?
Boy, you ask really focused, narrowed questions. You don't ask the big picture stuff at all. So the Hill is changing all the time, almost hour by hour. I will tell you, the big picture answer for us is we want to be trusted partners with anybody who's asking a question. And if you ask us a question, we want to go back to the science, and we want to go back to the data. We want to be a trusted partner, advisor, on the science and the data. So we work closely with the regulatory agencies. We manufacture polyvinyl chloride. It starts with vinyl chloride. Vinyl chloride is a monomer, and when you add a catalyst, it polymerizes. It changes from vinyl chloride into polyvinyl chloride, monomer to polymer, vinyl chloride to polyvinyl chloride. So because of that process and the transportation and a lot of things in the news, like the train wreck in East Palestine, we are regulated by OSHA. We're also regulated by the US EPA. A number of our substances are going through TSCA review, which is relatively routine. We can go into that if you'd like, but we work closely with folks. We're regular communications. We regularly submit comments. We regularly have folks meeting with us. In fact, we regularly have field trips of regulatory agencies down to our manufacturing facility so they can learn and say, look, this is a pressure relief device, and this is the reactor, and this is the place where we're loading up the rail cars, so they can actually see hands-on. And we do that, pretty open, transparent way. One, because we're regulated, and two, we want to have a relationship with these guys. So now politically, it's kind of tough. It's pretty polarized. Our office is actually in Washington, D.C. We're about a block away from the White House. The White House is 1600 Pennsylvania, and we're 1700 Pennsylvania Avenue, so about a block away. We can see the White House out of our windows, and it is about as polarized as I've ever seen it. Technically, I guess I'm part of the swamp, but we try not to be in the polarized, bitter, dig your heels in. We want to be somebody who's offering whoever's asking, right or left, center, whatever. We're providing information and conversations.
Yeah, but and if you're not in the swamp, then someone else is there, right? Which is the challenge. And from my understanding, the EPA is very open. Like they want to learn as much as possible, and they're reliant on outsiders to come in and talk about the science. So if you're not doing it, then you're sort of doing the world a disservice, because they're not getting the data, which we have, right, as an industry. So you have to be there.
The slogan here in DC is you're either at the table or you're on the menu. So we want to be at the table so that they're not chewing us up. But let me just say, the regulatory agencies, generally speaking, the professional staff are very professional and come in and really understand the nuances and have a long-term working relationship on the individual substances and issues that they're reviewing. The political staff have biases, have opinions, and clearly our membership was pretty happy that the Trump administration was in place, and they said they were going to move forward with some tax relief. We support some of the programs that Trump was putting forward to ensure that our corporations would get accelerated depreciation and some tax issues and things. But generally speaking, we are nonpartisan, bipartisan, just providing data and science to people who need that information for solid scientific data solutions that they're looking for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a key role to play. And, it's hard for the individual companies to play that role as an individual. So, the collective voice is required. If you look at let's go back to one of those broad questions. One of the topics that we like to discuss is like innovation, and like what's new, exciting, things that are coming. There's always interest around what's coming. Like, what do you see coming that's innovative, or would you think that, say, in the next 5-10 years that you think's around the corner and that might be a game changer in the industry potentially?
So there's a couple things that I see. If I look at the product categories, there is some real innovation that's coming out. I think PVCO-oriented PVC pipes could be a game changer. I'm not as involved in it with individual manufacturing, but it seems to me that industry seems to be, or that product line is continuing to grow. Really durable product. If you guys aren't looking at that, but it's puncture resistant, break resistance. I mean, really decreases, I guess.
Years.
Yeah. But it's not brittle like some other products. It's really good. I think the multi-wall sewer pipe non-pressure pipe is probably one of the bigger innovations. I understand some companies are starting to buy those multi-wall extruders from Europe, and then what they're doing is in the middle wall is recycled content, and so you're able to reduce the carbon footprints and use recycled content. In the other part, I will say the innovations that we've seen in the flooring industry have been amazing. The print layer in flooring that gives you a different variations in color, in grooves and things. It's really remarkable, the quality look of those. I put in vinyl planking, no surprise, in my basement about 2 years ago, and I think it's probably 6 or 8 inches wide and maybe 8 feet long. So it's a very wide, long plank, and you can't tell that it's a vinyl product. It looks identical to wood, but it is water resistance. We got dogs, and the scratch resistance. If I spill, not that I'm spilling red wine, but if I did, that's easy to clean up.
Yep.
Vinyl siding. They're now making the variations in vinyl siding. So cedar planks.
Okay.
It's pretty remarkable. So the product lines, their innovations in the print process and the coloring process is pretty remarkable. Other innovations, I will tell you, there is in the PVC side, there is some conversation about availability of bio-based PVC resin.
Okay.
So that you could use some different, like for example, some plant-based ethylene, I think, and this other folks. It's a little more expensive. The cost has got to come down. But if somebody was looking for a more bio-based resin, I think there are companies and resin manufacturers that could provide that. But it's a little more expensive. And then I think there's also some movement towards renewable energy in the manufacturing space. So a lot of folks are looking at solar powered. I know a number of folks are putting up solar fields and are looking for renewable energy sources for their chlorination processes. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. But I think the real exciting ones for consumers and builders is going to be in the quality print and the variation that you're going to be able to get in kind of the consumer facing side of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of innovations, and one of the areas of innovation also is it's sort of called sustainability or recycling, and that's also something that I've been looking at globally. There's been a lot of interest in recycling PVC product, PVC pipe, siding. A lot of it's recycled today. A lot more can be recycled. And there's now, like you mentioned, technologies in place to recycle it and put it back into the product. What's sort of your thought on recycling? Like, is the industry at where they need to be? Does it need to go further? What's the sort of pulse check on recycling?
So great question. And I'd look at it in a couple of different ways. So there's always more to do. If you look at a category that I think the public is paying attention to, it's the post-consumer PVC, post-consumer plastics of all type. And that's the harder category to address. So there's a lot of recycling being done in the US and Canada. So today, we recycle about 1.1 billion pounds of PVC every year in the US and Canada, 1.1 billion pounds. About 142, 145 million pounds of that is post-consumer. So, 10%, I guess, less than 10% is post-consumer. Part of that is there's not a lot of PVC that's available, post-consumer PVC that's available to be recycled. So we mentioned pipes. So pipes with a lifespan of 100 years and they're buried, right? You buried the drinking water and the wastewater pipes down. It's once they're in there for 100 years, do you actually bring them out, or do you use that pipe? Do you reline it? Do you use it for moving cable or something else? So not a lot of people are digging up a 100-year-old pipe and recycling it. So most of the things that are happening in the pre-consumer, post-industrial, it's, the pallet wraps and the end cuts, or for example, if someone's running PVC pipes and the color spec is off, or they're purging a line, they're reusing that at site. So that we got a lot of industrial recycling, because they know what's in the resin, they're using it. They're not sending it to the customer. They're regrinding it, mechanically regrinding it, and putting it back in the process. And so that's a huge percentage, and very, very much a growing space. PVC is very valuable. People don't want it to go to landfill. People who are converting the resin into a product, they're not interested in landfilling it. It's expensive to landfill and you're wasting money. They're just regrinding it and putting back in the process. But what we need to do is get more post-consumer PVC in it. We're trying to grow our pounds in the U.S. from about 142 million pounds in 2020. We're trying to grow that to about 160 million pounds by the end of this year. So it's about a 10% growth, but we're trying to get to 160 million pounds of post-consumer PVC by this year. We're on track. We haven't reached it yet. We have a long way to go. Well, not a long way to go. We're on track. And part of it is the data collection. How do you actually find out in a certified third-party validated way how much actually a post-consumer is being collected? And so that's a big part of the process. The other part is, how do you actually grow it? How do you actually grow post-consumer PVC recycling? And we're really proud of the fact that the Vinyl Institute and our resin manufacturers are donating $1 million a year. Each of our 4 resin manufacturers are putting up $250. So 250 times 4 with $1 million a year. And we're giving that out to folks to grow post-consumer recycling. We've given about $2.5 million out so far. I'll get the numbers wrong, but roughly a third of that has gone to universities that are looking at advanced recyclings and advanced recycling technology, and how do you grow chemical recycling, for example. About a third of it has gone to actual recyclers. We've bought balers for hospital systems. We've bought separation equipment so you can separate metal and fluff from wiring. There's a lot of PVC in wiring, and so as they separate that out for copper, we're capturing the PVC, and we bought a processor to separate the different components. We bought some extruders. Somebody's making car mats. Somebody's making pallets. So they're taking post-consumer products and turning it into pallets. We have a company that's actually, in Mack trucks, in the tractor trailers, there's usually a wooden layer in there, and the pallets ride back on that. We've got a company who's making PVC, recycled post-consumer PVC into planks. They're going in these tractor trailers, and it's lighter weight and it's more durable. But it also doesn't damage the load. It's not as damaging to some of the products as some of the wood products that are out there and lighter weight. So we're hoping that works. And then the other third we're sending to trade associations. So, for example, the Vinyl Siding Association, now called PEPA, the Vinyl Siding Association has gotten a sum of money to put bins at the distributors. So the siding folks will pick up new siding at the distributor, and they'll drop off their tear-offs. And so they've started a loop that's really recycling a lot more siding than we used to, because the siding installer doesn't want to take the tear-off to the landfill and pay a tipping fee.
Yeah.
They're already going to the distributor, so we're paying for the bins and the publicity to try to collect more siding. So we've got a long way to go, but it is definitely working, and we're very proud of the movement that we've made in there, progress we've made.
Significant level of initiatives and real tangible proof that the material that's available anyway, that's is being recycled. I have a question. What's the outlook of the recording on vinyl? I don't know anything about it, but traditional vinyl, is it still increasing?
Oh God, yeah. Oh boy, the vinyl record album business is booming.
Yeah, wow.
It is my understanding, it is the #1 medium for recording. Now, part of that is, I'll take credit, the vinyl industry. It's got a warm, crisp sound. Taylor Swift, all of her music is coming out on these albums. And when Taylor Swift releases an album, it takes the entire capacity of the record pressing industry. But the other part of it is, everybody, the vast majority of people, have switched from a hard format to streaming services. and streaming services, so Spotify or whatever service you're on, Pandora. That's where people are going. I will tell you, not only are we growing though, but it's actually maybe I've seen different reports, but it may be more sustainable because the electricity needed to support the streaming maybe have a larger carbon footprint than the recording using record albums. So, but record albums are
interesting.
They're hot.
Super interesting. Yeah.
And I'll tell you the other thing is there's a very large percentage. It may be as much as 25% of people who buy record albums don't have a turntable. They just
purely collecting.
They're collecting the art, the album covers. It's cool.
No, they're just putting it on the wall. Oh, that's so cool. It's so interesting because it's like you're buying that experience, right? The artwork, the cover, and you don't get that today with digital formats.
You do not, and you don't get the lyrics. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
So one thing I'll tell you about this is the industry recognizes that vinyl record albums are cool and hip, and it is an opportunity for us to lean into the quality products because vinyl record albums, they're durable, they're long lasting, the sound is warm quality, it can be reused, it can be kept in use. And so every year we have a reception on Capitol Hill and we invite all the congressional aides from the House and the Senate, and we do the vinyl record. And we take a committee room and we turn it into a used record store with milk crates full of used record albums. And all the albums that we have are under $10, so we comply with all congressional gift rules. But the congressional staffers dig through the milk crates to find an album that they want, and they get to take it home for free. But between each milk crate, we have a little story, a little display that talks about PVC in medical, like blood bags, and PVC in pipes. And so it's a great educational opportunity to get these kids who love the cool, hip, warm sound of vinyl record albums.
Get educated on PVC in the process. That's fantastic.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't know PVC is vinyl and vinyl is PVC. So this is our chance to just set the record straight.
Well, keep doing the great work. I think it's much appreciated. And this has been a really nice opportunity for us to chat about what you do and PVC and vinyl. So thanks, Ned, for coming on. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much for having me. And if anybody needs to get in touch with us, we're at vinylinfo.org. Thank you very much, Greg. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Building Connections. You can find links to all of the resources mentioned in today's episode in the show notes. If you're finding value in our podcast, please take a moment to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. It really helps us connect with more listeners like you. Don't miss out on future episodes. Keep listening and building connections with us.